Hello and welcome to Excel Level 1 for 2016. I am your instructor, Kenna Smith, and I will be going through just some of the basic steps of Excel and explaining how you can use this in your workplace. I have been working for Autry for almost 3 years. I am actually a full-time teacher in the Enid Public School System, and I do this for pretty much just a hobby. I love to teach these types of classes, and Excel is one of my favorite programs to teach. So as we go through this, just for the first part of Excel, we are going to go through and we will see that we are going to navigate the Excel user interface. We are going to use Excel commands, and some of those commands are some on the short keys for your keyboard, and so those will be stuff like your Control-C for copy and your Control-V for paste. But we will go through those and I will show you a sheet that I have made up so that you can review that. We are going to create and save a basic worksheet, and then we are going to enter cell data and use Excel help. So let's get started. First off, you have the online apps. So anything that you have for Excel that is on your start menu that you have for Office 365, you can also get these on the website. If you just type in your Office 365 sign-in and all of that, if you have the 2016 program, you can get that on the Microsoft actual website itself, or you can go to your local Staples or Best Buy and get those and download them. The online Excel is a little bit different, so it does have less that you can do, but if you are ever sick and you're and you have an office that you need to do work from home, you can actually bring that up if they have it on a shared drive and you have access to that, or if you just have it online and you have it in the cloud, then you can bring up that Excel at home and you can actually work on it. Now again, you won't be privileged to some of the ribbons and the tabs that you would normally be used to on your regular Excel sheet, but we'll look at those and we'll compare those later. So the first thing that you need to understand is that you have your spreadsheets, and then you have your worksheets, and then you have your workbooks. So as I have it labeled here, you have your worksheets, which are like the sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and you can relabel them. So the worksheet has all your data and all your information on it. And then the worksheet is housed inside the whole workbook itself. So that's going to be your difference in between your worksheet and your workbook. And these are actually called spreadsheets. So whenever they say I need a spreadsheet on, sales commission, or I need a spreadsheet on like some of the accounting information or anything like that, then this is what they're referring to and what they're looking for as far as that information. So you have cells and you have ranges. So your main thing is that your cell is a singular container that you can use to input and store data. So your cell is what is actually the data that you enter into this green box right here. Okay, your range is if you take more than one cell and you need to enter all of that data. So if I were going to take this cell right here, then I would just plug in my number as 115,500. And then if I had a range and I wanted to add all these cells together, then I would highlight the whole range. So before I go any further, let me go ahead and pull up an Excel spreadsheet for you so that we can actually practice this information. So if you go to your Start menu, if you don't have Excel in your most used right here, and it's not over here in your tabs, then you can actually come down here and you can search, and you can search Excel. And it will go ahead and bring up the Excel desktop app. Once that desktop app comes up, then you're going to choose a blank worksheet. Okay, so that's going to be your blank one. And then it also has, if you look up here, suggested searches, which is business, personal, industry, financial manager, list, logs, and calculator. What that means is that I can go to a personal Excel sheet, and it is one that has already been pre-made as a template. So you have all of your information over here that it lists. So if you want calendars and you want to print a calendar instead of making up your own calendar, then you can do so by coming through this information. Okay, so again, that was Excel. And I'm going to go back to a blank workbook. So in my blank workbook, where this green cell is, that is the cell, and then the range is if I have more than one piece of information, and I actually click and hold down the mouse button and I select a range of what I'm wanting. Okay. Okay, so here's your cell and range references. The cell reference is the name of a cell. It is used to differentiate it among the other cells on a worksheet. It consists of a letter and a number. So you have your column header, which refers to the letter, and the row header that refers to the number. So here's what it's talking about. Here's your A and here's your 1. So this is in cell A1. So if I type information in here and I come back over to it, you will see that right here it states that this is cell A1. Okay? So that is your information on a cell reference. Your range reference consists of two cell references separated by a colon. Your example is A1 colon D5. So if I were to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I wanted to add this range together, or I wanted to have a range such as this, then that would be considered, I would do, my range would be equals, and then A1 colon D1. So if I wanted a range reference, I would do A1 through D1. Okay, so that is my range reference right there. It says no value because I didn't know if I wanted to add it or multiply it or whatever I want to do with it. We'll go through that in a minute. But at least you can see how that range reference is up here. Okay, and then we'll tell it what to do later. Okay, so then you have cell and range references within here, and so you can see the different ways that you have your column headers, which is your A through, it goes on forever, and then your row headers, which are your numbers. So column headers, letters, row headers are numbers, and then you have your cell, which is like the B6, or you have your range, which is like your D2 through F6. So here is my D2 because this is on the second row right here, and then this is my F all the way down to 6. So that's what it's referring to when you go through the information like that. Okay, you have Excel outer elements. So here's where we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what you can do on your actual Excel sheet. So you have a ribbon, and that is what this information is. Okay, so your information within your ribbon, you have home, insert, page layout, formulas, data, review, and view. So these are your tabs up here, and under each tab is a ribbon. And then you have your name box, and you have your formula bar. You also have your status bar, which tells you if you're ready, and then you have view and zoom in controls. So let's take a look at this on our Excel sheet. So here you're going to see that you have home. This is your home tab up here, and this is your ribbon that comes into your home. So on your home tab, this is where your font and your alignment and your number, styles, cells, and editing. If you go to insert, this is where you're going to find where you insert pivot tables. You can insert charts, insert hyperlinks or a text box, or even some word and clip art over here. Your page layout, this is going to tell you like if you have it in your portrait or your landscape. It's also going to tell you your margins if you choose to have a background. You can also do the height of your cells, and the width of your cells here automatically is where it's at now, or you can actually specify how you want it, or there's an easier way to fit that information in a box, which we will go over in a minute. Okay, and then your next one is your formulas. If you don't know your formulas by heart, then you can come in here and you can say like, what have I recently used? Let me look at some financial formulas. logical formulas, text formulas, date and time, which we will go over some of these, but we will not go over all of these because some of these you won't even use. Your next tab is data. So within that data, your ribbon is if you need to pull in from other sources for external data, if you want to sort and filter, which is also on your home, and then you have data tools and outline. So you will learn that when you come into Excel, you have multiple ways of doing one thing. It's just whatever you're most comfortable with. So when you come in here and you want to do a formula and you want to do auto sum or whatever the case may be, you also have auto sum over here and you also have sort and filter over here. So you could either go to your formulas and here's your auto sum here, or you could go to your data and you could find your filter information here. So there's a couple of different ways to do it, and always multiple ways in Excel. Okay, so then you have your name box and you have your formula bar, and then you have your status bar and your view and zoom controls. So down here it says that this cell is ready for information to be entered. Okay, so anytime that I want to enter information in with that green box being around it and the ready down here, that means that I'm ready to do that. Here is your zoom in and your views. Okay, so you also have your page layout up here and also your views up here. So you have normal, page break, page layout, and custom views. Okay, the same information is down here. If you hover your mouse over anything that you're not sure about, it will tell you what kind of view you're going to go into. So this one is a normal view, and then you have your page layout view, and then you have your page break view. This is your zoom in and zoom out bar. So if you need to see it a little bit better, then you can zoom in. Okay, if you need to zoom out a little bit, then you can do so. Okay, if you want to see all the little tiny cells. And then if you just want to go back to your normal, then you just click in the center of that. Now, you can also hold down the control key that says in the corner, mine's on the bottom left-hand corner of my keyboard, and it says CTRL. So if you hold that down and you have like a scroll in the middle of your mouse, you can hold that down and scroll up to make it bigger and scroll down to make it smaller. Okay, or you put it right back. So if you notice that down here on the bar when I did that, so I'm going to scroll up to make it bigger. It zooms in for me, scrolls down to make it smaller. Okay, multiple ways to do the same thing. Gotta love the Microsoft system. Okay, so you also have what is called a quick access toolbar. So these are going to be the tools that you use the most. And so my quick access toolbar right now only has a save, an undo, and a redo. And then if you wanted to add more, you could add more. So if you had a print that you wanted to do or an email, if you wanted to open a new and you wanted that to be like a shortcut or a command, you could. You could also do more commands. So if you wanted any of that information that you have on your ribbons, to come up there into the Excel quick access toolbar, then you could. So you have like your copy paste and information like that, or your filter or your borders. It just depends on what you use. So again, that's your quick access toolbar. Drop that down for changing that. And then also more commands if you wanted to do more commands, and then you would add it over here where these three are. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is your Excel inner elements. Okay, so these are going to be like your select all button, your rows and columns and how to work with those, your worksheet tab navigation controls, your column headers, scroll bars, and worksheet tabs. Okay, so let's start with the select all button. So this little triangle in the corner up here, if I wanted to select the whole entire spreadsheet and all the data that was included in it, then I would simply click here and it highlights the whole entire worksheet for me. So if you need to do like a major formatting on the Excel worksheet, this would be a great tool for that. Now, if you have the information in the Excel sheet, you can click here on the box and you do Control A, and it only highlights the data that you have sitting in your box. Okay, so within the worksheet itself, that's the only thing that's going to be highlighted. So I could come here and I could go over here and spread this out and then come down here and spread this out. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And so here you notice that it goes ahead and it highlights the whole entire worksheet. So if I'm going to print this, it's going to print all these blank boxes for me. Now, if I just wanted to have my data highlighted, I would do Control A. So you hold down Control and then hit A and then you release, and it only highlights the data that I need. And so now I can do anything with this and I don't have to print all this extra stuff on the outside. Okay, so that's your Select All button. Your next one is going to be your column headers, and we'll touch on column headers and row headers at the same time. Okay, so your column headers here, I told you that you could easily spread these out. So if I have everything highlighted here and I wanted to go ahead and move my width out, then I could, and it moves it out one at a time. Okay, or you could easily, if you want it to fit the text within the box width, then you just double click on the line in between the two and it comes right there, and it only does the amount of space that you need for that too. Now, if you have your Select All button, you just click one of those and it formats the whole entire thing for you. So that's what I'm saying. If you have a major format to do, then you could go ahead and do that. So I'm going to undo that information. Okay, so if I wanted all of my columns to be the same, then I would pull A out and all of them would be the same with the Select A button. If I wanted them to be all the same and pull them in, I would double click the line in the middle and then it would fit my text right in the middle of that box. If I only wanted one at a time, you could unclick it and just pull your bars out that are in between the letters. Okay, same thing goes with rows. So you can have Select All and you can pull your rows out and it does it for each row. Or you can double click and it does it for each row. Or you can have it here and only do one at a time. Okay, so you have all that information on how to expand your rows and how to expand your columns. I'm going to go ahead and do a Select All and see if I can't pull these back out just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we have our scroll bars, top and side, or I'm sorry, bottom and side. And then we have our worksheet tab navigation controls. And then these are our worksheet tabs. So here I have worksheet 1. Okay, I hit the plus button and I start a new worksheet and it immediately goes to worksheet 2, worksheet 3, worksheet 4. Okay, if I get all the way over here, and I can just move my bar over so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. So I know I have 4 worksheets. Well, this is now highlighted, so now I can scroll over to my worksheet 4. So this is what it's talking about as far as your worksheet navigation. Okay, and these are your actual worksheet tabs. Move that back over. Okay, and this is your scroll bar. So this one's going to scroll side to side for you, however much data you have over here. And then your up and down, which is going to scroll over here to the side. I don't have anything that's all the way down. So you can also use your mouse if you want to do that information. Okay, so on this one, I actually have it a little bit over, so I'm going to scroll over. But this one, I don't have anything up or down. I can just use my mouse. Okay, if you wanted to, and I'll go ahead and go through this small portion here. If you wanted to rename your tabs, so let's say that this one is going to be commission and this one, or actually we'll go if it is going to be like John, Sally, Susie, and Mike. So you can double click, a couple of different ways, double click it until it's highlighted, and then you just type in Susie, Susie. Okay, and then if I wanted to go to worksheet 2, so that one's now named Susie. And then worksheet 2, instead of double clicking, you can actually right click and then hit rename. Highlights it for you, okay? And this one we're gonna do Mike. So on all of your worksheets, you can actually turn around and just either double click or right click and rename. And so this one's going to be Sally and John. Okay, so we have Susie, Mike, Sally, John, and we only have data in Susie's. So on at least your tabs, and if you're using this to like do some small budgeting information, then you could actually use it to do your months of January, February, March, April, or if you have all of your months listed here, you can actually do like 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then continue going on from there. So you could use it a couple of different ways. If you have inventory that you want to keep, you could easily keep inventory on your tabs also. Or if you want to put your months down here in the inventory in this information, you could do that too. Okay, so you have Excel window commands. These are on the far right top corner, and this is your minimize button, your maximize restore down button, your close button, and your ribbon display button options. I personally always have to have my ribbons open. Some people do not like their Excel sheets like this. So up here in this corner, you have this one is if you want to auto hide your ribbon. So if I click this, then my ribbon is gone until I come up here and I click on it and I want the information to drop back down. Now, if I come down here and I want to work on my Excel sheet, the ribbon disappears. It hides itself. So I am not one that I can always remember what is in which tab. So I always have my ribbon to show. Show tabs and commands. Okay, so then this one over here is your minimize button. And then this is your restore or down. So right now I am at full screen with this. So if I were to click this, it's going to just kind of pull it down. This way you can move it wherever you need to. So if I wanted to see this and my PowerPoint slide at the same time, I could. And then I'm going to restore it. Okay, and then this one is the close button. Now when you close it, it's always going to ask you if you want to save it, don't save, or cancel. Right now I'm going to cancel it because I'm not quite done with my Excel sheet. But we'll go through the different ways to save your workbook. Okay, so there's a thing that's called a backstage view, and this appears when you select the File tab on the ribbon. This view includes previewing and printing workbooks, saving and accessing Excel files, applying security options, and sharing your workbooks with your colleagues. Okay, so here we would go to File, and this whole area of what we have options on is called our backstage. So here I'm able to either protect my workbook, and I can protect it with the whole entire sheet that I'm on now, or the whole workbook that all my sheets are in. I can add a digital signature if I have the right access to, usually that's an IT question, if you have access to add a digital signature. And then that way I can protect it. Sometimes you have employees that when you share files with them, you know, instead of just looking at the data that's in the file, they want to like change your headers, they want to change your colors, they want to change everything. So sometimes when you protect your workbook, that allows them not to make any of those changes unless they have the password. If you just simply protect it without a password, they can just click on it and make the changes anyway. Then you have like your new, this is where we talked about if you wanted a new workbook. In each one of these little areas where if you wanted a template of something that has already been made that's very specific. You can also open, which means we can open anything from where we're at right now if I need Excel open in a certain area or on a certain Excel sheet. Here's the difference on your save and your save as. So if I were to save, this is only if I have already done a save as first. So you have your save as. We're going to talk about that one first. So I want to save this one as, I want to do it on this computer and I want to do it on my desktop. save as. So this is where I name it, and I name it Excel Level 1. Okay, so this is where I would do my save as. So that means that it is on my drive, okay, and it is on my desktop. So as soon as I hit save, that's where it's going to put it at. Now, I'll say that I hit saved, and that's where my document is. This is on my desktop. And let's say everything closes out and I can't do anything, I can't get back in this, and this is all gone. So I would go to my desktop, I would click open my Excel sheet that was there, okay, because I named it, so I should be able to find it. So I open it up and it's sitting right there, and now I can actually make the changes that I need to make, and then you can hit save. Okay, so your save button is after you have already done a save as and you've named that particular workbook. Okay, so you can also save it as a PDF file. So if you have data information and you want someone to review it and you don't want them to make any changes, you can actually save it as a PDF file and then email it out or put it on the shared drive to where they might be able to make notes on it, but they're not able to make any of those changes. And then of course you have your print options. So with your print options, if you have an active sheet, which is what I have open right now, and you can see that I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, I had up to number 11. I can actually print it to where it'll print a selection if I have that highlighted, print the active sheet, or print the entire workbook. So if you have several worksheets on the bottom tabs open and you want to print all of them, then you could actually do print entire workbook and it would do the same thing. And then you have, if you want it one-sided or on both sides, on printing. And then you have either portrait or landscape. So if I were to change this, this is right now on portrait, and I were to change it to landscape, I would be able to get, instead of 1 through 5, I would get 1 through 7. So that's a little better. Okay, now here's where the scaling fits in. If I want it to fit all on one page, then one, I have to be ready to maybe even get out a magnifying glass because my information is too small. But if I were to fit it on one page, then I would have 1 through 11. And that would be in my landscape. If I did 1 through 11 and I tried to fit it on my orientation for portrait, then you can see it gets 10 times smaller, and that is really hard to read. So that is not something that I would want to do. And right now I don't have any borders around any of these numbers, so that would makes it even harder to fit on there. So then you have your share option. You can share via email, or you can share using PDF. You can save to the cloud if that's something that you have. And then you have export, to where you can do pretty much the same things, create it as a PDF, or if you have a shared drive, you can do it there. You have your account options. This is where it gets a little bit more of probably bringing in your IT if you wanted to. So you have like your OneDrive, different sites that you have this is the Autry account. And then if you wanted a background, or if you just wanted a theme, if you wanted to learn more about Excel, then you could. If you wanted to change the product key, this is not anything I normally mess with on my computer. On your options, here's where you have like your proofing, if you want it to do an autocorrect for you on your proofing. So if words are supposed to be uppercase, or they contain numbers, or whatever the case may be, here's where you do those particular options. You can also change the language in here. You can customize your ribbon. So if you don't want some of this stuff on your ribbon, that's getting a little more intense into Excel, but just so you know where that information is at. And then of course you have your general Excel with no background or anything else like that, how it comes up with your name and everything on there. Okay, so I digress. Sorry about that. So those are all your Backstage options. You have a lot of options when you go into Backstage, and you can kind of search around there. You can't mess up too much on it without it saying, are you sure you want to do this? So, okay, so that's part of the Backstage view. Has all your tabs and commands. You know, if you wanted to ever change or password protect your workbook, then that would go in there also. And then just kind of managing your workbooks itself. Okay, so here are your particular mouse pieces of information. If your mouse looks a certain way, then this is what this means. So when you have the cursor here, okay, and that's what mine looks like now. Okay, so what we're going to do is that this is a select to perform the associated action. So if I were to click, then that's what that mouse does, is it clicks. When you have it here and you have like a little black plus sign with arrows, then that means that you can drag or move cells to the other side or another cell range. Okay, this next one, with your open outline of a plus sign, okay, then that means that you can select an individual cell or drag to select a range of cells. And then when you just have your regular solid black line with two lines to the side with arrows, then that means you can resize your columns. And then if you have it up and down, then that means you can resize your rows. When you have a cursor, that means you're ready to type. And then when you have this one, it means that you can actually do an autofill. So let's take a look at those pieces of information on the Excel sheet. Okay, so here's my regular arrow, and it means that I am ready to select any of these options. Okay, here is my horizontal arrows with a solid black line down the middle, so that means that I am ready to move my rows. And then this is mine vertical with the arrows and the solid line in the middle, and I'm ready to move. Ooh, sorry, that was columns. This is rows. I apologize about that. And then this one, it means that I'm ready to select, and I can put in my information. Okay, so I can put in 1, 2, 3. My cursor is here, so if I were to click, then that means I'm ready to type in any of that information. This means I can type over that information. This, I don't know if you can see it real well, but it's a very small black solid plus sign. And this is an autofill. So this means that probably 1 is going to be autofilled all the way down as far as your autofill. And then you can also do it over. On this little green box is where it has to sit right here. And then you can also autofill over if you wanted 1 to go in the columns over. Okay, so those are your different mouse options, just so you know how to put your mouse when you're ready to do something. Okay, and then you have keyboard navigation. So navigation options to move the cell into column A of the current row. You can press the home key. So if I were all the way over here or all the way at the bottom of my spreadsheet down here on your keyboard, kind of in between the numbers and the letters, you can push home key. And it should go back up to 1. Sorry, control home. Control home is where you need to go with that. Okay, and then to move to the first or last column of a row, then you can just press the control key and then press up or down, left or right on your arrows. To scroll up and down the screen, you just push page up or page down, or you use your mouse to scroll or your scroll bars on the side. And then to scroll left or right on the screen, you can press Alt page up or Alt page down. So that's your ALT. So if I were to come here and I wanted to go to the end of my spreadsheet here also, I would do Control End, and it would take me to the very last cell. Control Home takes me to the very first cell. Okay, and then Control Down takes me to the bottom of that. Control Left or Right takes me over to the very side of that. Okay, so those are some of like just kind of your quick keys if you didn't want to scroll all over. Okay, so then if you wanted to move one cell right, you hit Tab. If you want to move a cell down, you hit Enter. Now, some of these are a little bit harder to do as far as like pressing Shift and then Enter to move a cell up. You could easily just hit the up arrow if you wanted to. But these are just some of the shortcuts. So there's your Control Home, your Control End, Control page up or down if you wanted to move back and forth in between the worksheets. And then press the Tab key. So what they're saying is that if I wanted to come up here and I wanted to enter data next to this cell, then I would hit tab. But if I wanted to enter data into the next cell below that, I would hit enter, and it would pop it back over to where I was. So your enter goes down and your tab goes over. Okay, so this is your basic data information for entering. You have your name box, so it tells you what cell you're entering it into. You have your formula bar, which will also tell you the data that is being entered. So if we take a look at our Excel sheet, and I am just going to delete all this out. So here, right in this box, that's your name box. So see, I hover my mouse over it, it tells me what it is. Now, you can change the name of that as soon as you have data entered, and that's probably going to be more of Excel 2. So, but if I were to come in here and I were to put in my name, then 1, it shows it in the formula box. 2, it shows that this is the data that is entered into that, and that it's entered into A1, and that's my name box. So see, B1 has nothing, nothing, and then I would just put in my last name. If I could spell my last name, sorry about that. And then if I hit tab, then that means I'm ready to go to the next cell over. Okay, so name box, data being entered, and formula bar. It all shows you where it's going to be. Okay, so we're going to stop here.